the hearings for the health licensing office. It is 10:07 a.m. on April 16th, 2014. This hearing is an opportunity for the public to comment on proposed.
Read it a little more slowly, please. Thank you.
This hearing is an opportunity for the public to comment on proposed administrative rules prior to the adoption by the Board of Sign Language Interpreters. The board will consider all public comment received in the hearings officer report at the May 15th, 2024 board meeting, at which time they are expected to adopt permanent rules which would become effective June 8th, 2024. HLO invites comments about whether other options should be considered for achieving the administrative rules goals while reducing the negative economic impact on business. HLO also encourages comments regarding the proposed administrative rules fiscal impact, if any, on state agencies, units of local government, the public, and small business. In addition to presenting verbal comments at the hearing, anyone may submit written comments until noon on April 28th, 2024, which is the close of the public comment period. Comments received after April 28th will not be reviewed or considered by the board unless the public comment is extended for everyone. Each person wishing to comment in person, please add your name, first and last name, and email address to the sign-in machine at the door. Each person wishing to comment on Zoom should email SAMIE@OHA.gov and state your first and last name. I will call each person when it is their turn to testify. You may then present your comments. If you have written materials to enter into the record, please say so and try to summarize them. You can submit materials by email to patnode@OHA.gov. I will begin taking comments now. There is nobody in the room. So if somebody wants to comment, if you just want to say your name and and then email me afterwards, that's fine.
For clarification, when you say your name, is that, oh, that's not in the chat. It's just literally turning your mic on or camera on.
I just need to hear a name. Mel, did you have any comments to make? Or Nissa? Or Christie? See everybody from board. Or down the side. Okay, I'm going to assume nobody wants to comment, but if there is a time when you would like to, just chime in. stop video how I take my picture off?
Yeah.
That's misleading. Get my stuff in the video.
Mel, go ahead.
Hey, this is Mel Deleon. I was planning on typing in my public comment. And that, to my understanding, is still open until April 28th, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
We were just gonna cancel you.
Oh, really? Not even? Wow.
But we. We have until 1:30 to get submitted. So yeah, I think it's everyone here, but that's. Whatever you want.
She said.
Somebody wants to go ahead, to say your name and begin.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Caitlin Oldham. I wanted to make a comment that I'm concerned about our heritage language users regarding the current proposed rules.
Do they both work in here? I can't hear it.
Okay. Let me try and change that setting real quick. Good. Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Do you want me to go back?
Yes, please.
So I'm concerned with the current proposed rules for our heritage language users and interpreters. Currently, the proposed rules have very limited options for generalist and supervisory license holders. And even if heritage users had taken those assessments January 1st and been able to pass it, they would not have their results maybe by the time June 8th rolls around. So I'm concerned that we were going to be excluding a lot of crucial interpreters from the field starting in June. That's all.
Thank you. Do you know when they would get those results approximately?
It really depends on the assessment. Some would qualify within like 2 to 3 months, but some people may have been waiting to take the test until those requirements were confirmed. But some waiting times are as long as 9 months at this point.
So there's waiting to take the test and then waiting for results.
Potentially, yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just tell him. And I hear us too.
Yes.
It's really sweet, words on the screen, is the main laptop.
This is Amber speaking. Amber Quall. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes? Okay. Thank you. So this is Amber Quall. I'm a REC member, and I am also a full-time freelance interpreter. So two things that I wanted to mention. One is on behalf of myself, and another is on behalf of a K through 12 interpreter who wanted me to speak on their behalf today. The comment that the K through 12 interpreter had mentioned to me, I didn't receive confirmation that I can share their name, so I'm just gonna not, just in case. So the concern regarding the educational license, in this person's opinion, they said, I definitely don't think educational license should be, quote, a stepping stone concept in coordination with how there is only 5 renewal potentials for that particular license. It should not be a stepping stone concept, as many interpreters just want to focus their speciality in that particular setting and nothing else. And they said, I think that that should be okay and not looked down upon. Yes, okay. So that is on their comment. And for myself personally, I think one of the harder things for myself and from what I've heard from other members of community is that the board meeting scheduled time is very difficult for people to attend and be a part of, including today's meeting. We're looking at a Tuesday from 10 to 1:30 for today's meeting, which can be challenging for people to have to step away from work. I recognize that there's not, and I'm happy to be corrected on this if I am wrong, but there are not many members of the RAC board that are freelance full-time, minus myself. And having to take off an entire day's worth of work is definitely a financial burden to me and my business. So I wonder if it's possible to conduct such meetings during another scheduled time, whether that's on a weekday in the evening outside of business hours or on a Saturday. Not that that's something that has to happen every single month, but if it could be a scheduled thing to have more meetings outside of the regular Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, I think that more participants would be able to attend public comments such as this and would put less of a burden on people like myself who I don't have sick leave. I don't have paid time off. I work for my business and I have to make sure to make ends meet. So I just wanted to throw that out there to make sure that people are able to access the information and be an active participant in all of the rulings for licensure. Thank you.
This is Sandy. This is not, so to clarify, this is not a meeting. It's a time when people can provide verbal comment about the proposed rules that were published in the Oregon Bulletin on April 1st. You can also write in comments. You don't have to do verbal, so nobody is required to be here. Board members are not required to be here. RAC members are not required to be here. The person required to be here is me. So, and the interpreters. So that's an option for you to come and provide comments. Or you can write them in. So, wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Sammy. I understand where you're coming from. I think that some people would definitely prefer to be able to give a comment that is on Zoom, especially for our users of ASL who prefer to use ASL and not through written communication. So it could be a little bit more difficult to send an English written email. So having the option that is more accessible to be able to come on screen and sign their comment if that's the language of their preference and their native language. So just wanted to point that out as well, that written communication isn't always going to be the most accessible for all participants and stakeholders. Thank you.
You are absolutely right, which is why we're having a hearing. But I will let Bob know that you think weekends and evenings would be more appropriate. Bob's the director. Go ahead, anytime, just chime in.
We're not hearing you, Nissa, if you're trying to talk.
Yeah. Just go ahead and say your first and last name. And then provide your comments.
Now,
You're breaking up a bit, but give her a shot again.
this is Nissa Vaughn. I'm on the Rules Advisory Committee. And I am asking a question for another interpreter that could not make it to this hearing. And so she asked me to pass on the message. She would like to know about fees. Supervisory for application fees is 150 plus 200 for licensing. Is that every year? And do we have to apply every year for that licensing? And then the other one that she had was medical license. It says RID cert or ASLPI level 4. Why does it say or? Shouldn't it go together?
Did you have any comments about the proposed rules?
They said the proposed rules, the application fee is so much if you're going to do it every year and on top of the licensing.
So it'll be the initial application fee and license fee, and there'll be an annual renewal.
Okay. Thank you.
Nissa, this is Sammy. On the medical interpreter, I didn't hear exactly what you said. Was it the or between for little a and b? Certification ASL interpreting from the RID or American Sign Language Proficiency Interview or American Sign Language Proficiency Interview with a minimum proficiency level of 4 or advanced. And her comment was it should be an and, or asked if it should be an and. Is that right?
Yeah, it should be an and instead of or, correct. Does that clarify, Sammy?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Sammy.
Mary, so maybe we need some clarification. Is this on the record? Should we be interpreting?
Oh, no,
No.
it's just a question about something else.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
She made 2 comments. I don't know which one. B and then. She didn't make comments. I don't know. If she wants to just come back on and say whatever she wants, that way it is on the record. Would be best.
Hey, Amber. Can you actually, there you go, can you unmute and actually ask your question?
Hi. Yes, I'm feeling a little camera shy, but I can do that. This is Amber speaking. Um,
No worries.
my question was what the possibility regarding changing the actual writing of the law, because we reviewed what the bill had said that had gone into law, that the effective date, I believe, if I remember correctly, Sammy, it was January 1st of 2024. And we had talked about how the typical rollout for licensure or any board of this kind has a very different processes. And the reason why this has been so unique is because of that effective date. So I am not very legally savvy. And so I was wondering if, like, what the process looked like if there was potential to try and change the law. Like, how do we go about like requesting that part of the law itself that states a specific date? Can we change that? If so, who do I need to talk to?
This is Sandy, so you want to go to a legislator. And the next legislative session will begin in 2025. I've never seen them do a retroactive date, and since the date already is here, you still have to hold the license. So I don't know how that would work. I don't think it would work. So anytime you want to make a legislative change, you have to, or a change to a law, or a change to a statute, whatever you want to call it. You have to go to the legislature, and you have to, just like they did with the bill, go to them and go to whatever legislator you want with draft language or a concept, and work with them with the language, and then follow it through the process. It goes to a committee, works through the committee with hearing, similar to how this works. And there's work sessions, and then it goes to another committee, and then the floor. Yeah, so it's a whole process, but they don't meet again until, I don't know the exact date, it's either end of January or beginning of February of 2025 is the next legislative session.
This is Amber responding. So does that mean to say that there's no emergency procedure in place to try and do something before legislative session convenes?
Not that I'm aware
Okay, and that's basically why we've done the whole temporary ruling to postpone the effective date. Is that correct?
of. We're looking at on the effective date. We didn't postpone an effective date, but we did put in place a limited waiver on enforcement. But there's still
That's
license.
yeah, that's what I'm referring to.
Yes, so yes, that goes until the end of the day on June 7th. And then licensing will be required on June 8th. So anybody who's keeping or is falling in line with the limited waiver, like not getting the license, they would need to have that license by January.
Okay.
June 8th, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Oh, it's just, and we will usually we wouldn't get caught. Well, what, we wouldn't get caught with hearings. Hearings get that. Hearings get that. Dina. There's no, Dina, it's just that. You don't want to mute it, it's fine with me. I said, really, reason. Well, usually I would turn everything off and just say, we'll be watching if someone wants to raise their hand. These are usually pretty boring. Okay, go. This is Sammy, and it's 11. It's 11:09 a.m. We are going to go ahead and stop the recording. We'll still be in the room and monitoring the Zoom. So if somebody pops on, or somebody who's already on wants to comment, just go ahead and raise your hand. And we're here, ready to listen. But we're just going to stop the recording, so we're not waiting on the recording. Okay, go ahead and say your first name and last name. There you go.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Joanne Davis. I go by Joey. My question was about the fees. If you could clarify that with me. It's not very clear in the paperwork that was sent out. So for example, with the supervisory, it says application fee of 150, I believe, and then 200 for the license and renewal. Is the application fee every year, or is that just a one-time you apply for it done?
All right, this is the interpreter speaking. I'm having great difficulty understanding. Are you having?
I can understand it, but I can see how you would.
Okay. Do you mind going back again, please, and starting again?
You're really crackly.
Joey, yeah, you're crackly.
Okay, sorry, I'm in a building that I don't know if I can get good reception.
Thank you.
I am just clarifying about the fees. The application fee, for example, the supervisory, it's 150 for the supervisory for the application fee, and then 200 for the actual license. So initially it's going to be 350 for that fee. is the application fee every year?
Yeah,
So it's just gonna be the one-time application fee and then the $200 from here on out, just the 200.
correct.
Okay, because it wasn't really clear, and I'm just like, do we have to apply for it every year? It's just the language in it is not very clear on that. Now, are the licenses yearly, or are they doing bi-yearly, or every other year, or how are they doing that?
Did you hear that? Annual?
Annual? Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all I needed to know.
No problem. What was your last name?
Davis,
Thank you.
D as in dog, A, V as in Victor, I-S. Thank you.
Go ahead, Eric.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to make a public comment. I'd first like to thank HLO for ensuring interpreters for today's hearing.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Sammy.
You can hear me? Yes. So procedurally, since you're a board member, you'll be actually voting on the rules. So your public comment would be at the board table. So we don't usually take board member comments because you are the final decision maker.
Okay.
That's usually how we do it.
Okay.
Comments
I
you
can.
make at the board level.
Okay, so then I should not comment.
Correct. I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't, but so if you want to, but that's procedurally how we normally do.
Okay. So should I share it with somebody else maybe then to make that comment?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Good to see you all. Thank you, interpreters. You're doing so wonderful.
Yeah, go ahead and state your name and your first and last name and the comments. Christina, did you have your hand raised?
I did. I'm sorry. I'm having a little technical difficulty. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for your patience. This is Christina Healy. I'm a freelance interpreter, certified in Oregon. I'm speaking on my own behalf. And I beg your patience. I'm calling in from my car on my lunch break with my dog in the car. So if you hear her in the background, that's what that is. I wanted to comment and say thank you so very much to the board and the Rules Advisory Committee for all of your hard work. I think you've come up with some really nice original rules to work with and move forward. As I read it, I see that someone with no credentials can work with direct on-site supervision for up to 6 years. And then after having some minimal credentials, as listed in rule, do you say 0110? Then they have another 6 years with those minimal credentials, which I think is really nice because a lot of the concern that's been voiced is around people who have been working as interpreters with either really no credentials or the EIPA 3.5 or above. So I applaud you all on that. I think this is a really nice kind of slow onboarding that will be allowed by that. And then for the educational license, I see that it says achieving a passing score of 3.5 or above. I would, I guess my comment would be that I would love to see that as a 4.0, especially since we have those 12 years potentially of kind of onboarding so that people can get that 4.0. And then, but even if I understand there's that tension between the previous law and the incoming law. And so I know that a lot of us are planning to go to the legislature to try and amend some of this, what's already in the current law. But I would love if the board could add like a 3.5 or whatever, and ongoing CEUs, continuing education, for individuals holding the educational license, because so that it would read something like national certification or EIPA, whatever score is determined, and say 15 hours of educational units in the continuing ed in the field of interpreting, or even in the field of educational interpreting, although that might be limiting. So because for national certification, in order to maintain one's certification, you are required to have that continuing education, whereas the EIPA is a one-time assessment and doesn't have any maintenance at all. And so I would love to see something that says like EIPA and however many hours of continuing education annually. That does put a little bit of a burden on the license holder to prove those education units during the year. I think that's a burden of the profession. And I'm hoping that licensure also will give interpreters working in K-12 settings some negotiating power as well, to have their skill sets and all of the hard work that they do compensated more fairly in this state. So that is that comment. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. And then my other comments were around exceptions. The only exceptions I see are related to emergency situations. And I wanted to recommend to the board considering other exemptions. I think it was discussed, but I don't see it in the proposed rules. Exemptions for foreign sign languages. Interpreters coming from out of state to interpret in Oregon for a limited time, I would suggest up to 50 hours per year. What I'm thinking of in that case is usually conferences where maybe a deaf professional comes to a conference and wants to bring their designated interpreters, something like that. And then I also would love to see something around, what is it called? When we recognize in our state licenses from other states. There's a word for that, reciprocation. And my suggestion at this time would say, just if an interpreter is licensed in another state, we accept that for now. And then I think that in the future, this board or subsequent boards could review that and see if that is still protecting the health and safety of the people in Oregon or not. But for now, kind of starting broad. So those would be my suggested exception is foreign sign languages, people coming from out of state up to a certain number of hours, reciprocation, like accepting licenses from other states. And for now, I would leave that really broad. And then potentially, this one's more messy, so I'll put it out there and maybe it's not the right time for it, but some kind of alternative pathway where interpreters, sorry, someone interrupt, is someone?
I want to make sure I'm capturing.
Yes, I will send this all in written up. Thank you. And then if the board, probably not by June, but if the board later has time to set up an alternative pathway for interpreters who, for interpreters to get licensed who are not able to be certified for some reason. And I have kind of an outline idea for that. So I'll send that in for people to think about that. And I'm hoping that alternative pathway could be kind of a start both for hearing and deaf interpreters to, that's going to need more heads involved in deciding what that alternative pathway looks like to be not to keep the gates too narrow, but also to maintain the health and safety of the public. So thank you so much. And thank you all for, again, you guys are working so hard. I really appreciate it. And I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Anytime. First and last name.
Getting cut off.
Good afternoon. This is my turn. I wasn't sure if you were saying it was my name. I'm Luann Connor from CODAS Plus Sign Language Interpreters. I'm a sign language interpreter who's been RID certified for 47 years. We have a small ASL only agency that provides interpreters, mostly medical, to Portland, Vancouver, Oregon, Southwest Washington, around here. I wish today to address the piece of deaf interpreters. It's the rules as they stand now are going to severely impact deaf patients in Oregon. Deaf patients in Oregon need deaf interpreters. We obviously don't have enough certified deaf interpreters, so use non-certified deaf interpreters constantly. We require that the deaf interpreters go through a deaf interpreter training. We get scholarships so that they can do the 60-hour medical interpreter training program. Then we do a mentorship with another deaf interpreter to learn the ropes. If we're not allowed to use non-certified deaf interpreters, we have a huge gap in providing patient services. Last year, 2023, we employed 16 non-certified deaf interpreters, some other language interpreters, some just deaf interpreters, for a total of, we paid $127,764 out to just non-certified deaf interpreters. What they do often, besides regular DI work, they spend the night for inpatients in the hospital because there's not enough hearing interpreters to work overnights. So deaf interpreters work overnight with the deaf patients, which provides interpreters for the nurses and staff and provides comfort and safety to the deaf patient who's in the hospital. It's a vital, vital, vital piece of our interpreting profession. And to deny interpreters, overnight interpreters, to deny deaf patients to have an overnight interpreter because all these deaf interpreters are not certified RID yet is going to be severely terrible. It's going to be really, really terrible. Deaf interpreters, I think everyone's already talked that deaf interpreters do not have the same access to be RID certified. I am a huge RID certified supporter. I don't have non-certified ASL interpreters because we have the pathway to do that, but deaf interpreters do not have that same ease to be RID certified. So we have got to have an alternative pathway for deaf interpreters ASAP. It cannot, in June, you cannot just say, I'm sorry, we're not paying you, you're now not employed, you have no place in Oregon. Deaf people are gonna have to come to Washington to come to the hospital so that they have services. I think we have to address it immediately because it's a huge gap. I'm not sure we needed to have, when we were writing the rules, we needed to have input from actually working sign language interpreters who could help give you a picture of what actually the real world is like so that we could construct the rules good for interpreters, good for the deaf patients, clients. And I'm totally worried about providing services for deaf patients and clients come June. Thank you so much for letting me talk. Appreciate it. I hope that I can be helpful.
Does anybody else want to make comments before we close out the hearing? Anyone? Okay, then I call the names, or everybody has answered if they want to comment. There's my alarm, 1:30. Is there anyone else who wishes to comment? Looks like no. Thank you for providing us with your comment. The hearing is adjourned at 1:30. Thank you.